If you were out for 2 weeks, who could make a decision in your place, in your voice, and what would need to be true for that to happen? Hi, I'm Brittany Canaski, leadership coach and trainer here at Hello Velocity. Today, we're going to continue our conversation about delegation and more specifically talk about level 4 delegation, and that is delegating to make decisions on your behalf. So this is typically for department heads who need to be in multiple places at once. They have a lot of people, teams, resources relying on them. Or it could be for leaders who are going to be out for an extended period of time and they need someone on their team to be able to step up and make decisions on their behalf without calling you while you're on vacation. And I know, even saying that, you're probably feeling uncomfortable. I think most of us struggle with this one the most because you think that no one else could make the same decisions that you would and no one can replace you. And I'm sorry to tell you, but we need to have people who can be trained to make similar decisions as what you would. And again, maybe it's not the exact same as what you would, but we need to feel confident in the people on our team to continue moving the ship while we're gone, to continue moving projects forward, even when we're on vacation. Because you know what? I think we all deserve to take vacations without thinking about work, without checking emails, and without having anyone calling us. That is the dream. So even thinking about it from maybe the next level up, if you're a department lead, you probably have your own boss who's an executive that is delegating the day-to-day management of a whole department to you. So this could be managing the employees, managing the budget, resources, all these short and long-term projects and goals. Likely the executive and the department lead are checking in regularly about the status of different projects and talking about long-term goals of the department and anything high risk along the way. But the executive likely doesn't need to know the details of the day-to-day work that's happening. They may not even know exactly what all of the day-to-day things are that are happening, and that's okay. So that's kind of the approach we want to be thinking about here, is how can you take a few steps back and know that things are going to keep running without your direct involvement. So a backup or proxy when you're unavailable could be someone covering for you while you're out on vacation or leave, or maybe simply you're in an all-day meeting, or you're in an all-day training, or you're going to a conference for 2 days. In these situations, it's best to communicate what your expectations are for what they can and need to be handled while you're gone, and if there is anything urgent or high risk enough, when they should come to you. One of my favorite techniques to how to handle this conversation before you leave is to think about different tasks or situations on a scale of 1 to 10. 1 being not urgent at all to 10 being a high risk, very urgent fire that's happening, and talk through this with the other person of saying, okay, anything from 1 to 5 are the usual day-to-day tasks, projects, moving them forward. I don't even need to know about them as long as everything's going smoothly. And then anything from a 6 or 7, maybe give them specific examples of what that might be, how you typically handle them. Say, yeah, I trust that you can handle those again, or I'll give you some examples of what I typically do and just model your reaction after that. And then anything that's maybe an 8, 9, 10, you want to have maybe even a deeper conversation of what some of those watchouts could be, what those situations examples could be, and let them know, hey, if it's 8 or higher, you need to be calling me. Or if it's an 8, send me an email. I'll get to it when I can. A 9 or 10, you're calling me, text me. Or maybe you are taking that advice that you don't want to ever get a phone call while you're on vacation, and maybe it's just directing them to someone else or your boss that they can reach out to. Again, just be really specific what those types of examples are, those situations are, and give them recommendations of how you'd like them to handle it in advance. So then they kind of have like a cheat sheet, and it will make them feel more confident and make you feel more confident leaving. And then the best part is that things will be handled while you're gone, and you don't have to be stressing about it while you're gone. And of course, naturally, you're going to be bringing them up to speed on any ongoing projects or tasks or things that you think might come up while you're gone as well. So your responsibility as a person delegating these responsibilities to the other person, you are responsible for setting those clear expectations, and it could be in that level of detail of, hey, here's the ongoing projects, here's the normal situation, what you might be responsible for, here's the emergency situations that could happen and what I expect you to be able to do in that situation, and give them kind of that full spectrum and have those conversations to make sure you both feel comfortable and confident with that. And then you need to let them know how and when you can be available for them for support as needed, and what's the protocol for after you're back or once you're available. Are you going to have a meeting for them to catch you up on everything? Or what's that going to look like? And schedule that beforehand. And then as a person being delegated to, they're responsible for handling all these situations, to be aware of what's happening, to be handling your correspondence or getting your emails potentially, or your phone calls being forwarded to them. They're maybe coming up with new ideas along the way of how to handle these situations. They're making decisions. They're leading various projects and tasks, and they need to also take that ownership of reviewing everything and bringing you back up to speed after you are back. So at this level, you really need to make sure that both of you have really clear communication and that you're communicating effectively, consistently on both sides. And there's a lot of transparency that needs to happen before, during, and after this situation. I've seen issues in the past with department leads holding too much back from their boss. So then the executive has no idea what's going on until something bad happens, and then it's almost too late. It's almost like they've been trying to hold back, and maybe they're afraid to tell their boss of what's happening when it was in their responsibility. But we need to have this two-way trust. We need to have this two-way transparency of letting each other know maybe in advance if something is potentially going sideways, so that you can help each other out along the way as well. I've also seen on the other side where the person being delegated to overstepped their responsibilities and should not have made a decision on a matter that came up while the other person was out. It really comes back to setting and communicating clear expectations so everyone's on the same page of what they are responsible for and what they are not responsible for. So having those clear guardrails so that you both know what is happening, what needs to happen, and what should not be happening. So take a few moments now to think about the projects on your team and the people on your team, and where do you need to be delegating at a level 4, and maybe it's when you need to be delegating at a level 4, and what does that look like for you, and what do you need to be doing differently moving forward. And that's it for our series on types of delegation. I hope you're feeling more confident going into your next delegation conversation, and keep watching for other leadership tips coming soon.